I've always been considered a person with a lot of willpower. But the thing that I haven't admitted out loud is that it actually has nothing to do with willpower and it has everything to do with identity. In today's episode, we're talking about how your identity, not your motivation, is what drives your behavior. Let me tell you guys a little bit about me and how I power through and figure things out. I do this both internally and externally. So, externally, I try to find different things that are fun and new experiences for me to try when things in my life aren't what I want them to be. If I feel like I'm not at a good place mentally, or if I am, just like not living a life that I want to live, I start trying to work down this list of things that I can do or searching through my life to figure out what I can do in order to, make me feel better about my life. And then I do the work internally by always being on growth mode, like always learning something new. So, in more or less words, I'm always up and I'm always doing something, and it feels really good. It really fills my life. It makes me feel like I am proud of my life, and that is a good thing. I don't for 1 minute want you to interpret what I'm about to say as me shitting on that because I love that and I'm not going to stop. It's great. But the problem with what I have done up until the point that I became self aware of it is that I am equating my worth to the amount of action I take. Because the moment that I sit on my couch and I'm not doing anything, I think that I suck. Even though I've done all of this stuff in my life, even if I have plans later this week, if I'm sitting on my couch and I'm not doing anything, and my job really doesn't help with this because I work remote, so I'm sitting there all day, is that I think that I'm a failure and I sit there and I spiral on what I can do to make sure that my day to day looks good and feels good because I think that if I am not packed with stuff to do and I'm just sitting there and I'm resting or I'm recovering or I'm just existing, then like something is wrong and I am not living a good life anymore. What really works for me to not make me feel bad about stuff is when I learn that it's basic biology, when I learn that it's my brain's basic functioning that's causing it to show up in this way. And so I want you to know that you're not failing because you're weak or because you're doing something wrong. You're failing because of the story that your brain is telling itself and that it's trying to keep that story straight. One of the weirdest things that I think I have learned is that our brains are not neutral observers. And that's what it seems like, right? Like it seems like you go out into the world and your brain sucks up all of the things that it sees and hears and experiences, and it neutrally observes those things. But that's not how it works. Your brain's a prediction machine. It doesn't just interpret the world, it actively shapes it. And it does this using a process that neuroscientists called predictive processing. In short, that process is your brain assuming what's true based on what's already happening. Psychologists refer to it as confirmation bias, and it 1000% explains why we keep repeating patterns even when we want to change. Like, even though you want a morning routine, you still just wake up and scroll through your phone. Why you want to go to the gym really bad, but when you come home to decompress, you just lay on the couch and watch TV instead. It explains why, even though you want to do it, why you're telling yourself over and over and over and over again that you want to do something, but you just can't seem to get yourself to actually take action on it and do it. It's happening because of this. It's happening because of what your brain is doing. So, what is your brain doing? It's finding evidence that proves what it already believes. If it believes that you are disorganized, it will look for all of the proof that proves that to be true. And it's not just going to use what's in your current environment, it's going to use everything in your past too. Don't worry. Like if you believe that you are lazy, it's going to remember every skipped workout you've ever had and confirm that belief that you are lazy. And what's worse is it completely ignores everything that contradicts that belief. So every time you actually have powered through and gone and worked out, it just isn't going to even acknowledge that as a thing. And like, think about your brain not acknowledging something. Like, that's full unawareness. Like, you don't recognize the things that you aren't aware of. Your brain, what's actually happening inside of your head, is not aware. It's not recognizing. It's not remembering. It's not processing. Not that it's not processing, but like that it's not thinking about and reminding you of the times that you actually have done what prove that bias, because it is hardwired to believe this about you. So it has to find all of the things that confirm that belief and ignore everything that is not in alignment with that belief. One of my favorite examples of this is if you feel like you're behind in life and then you go scroll social media, all you see are the people who seem ahead of you. And it's crazy because it's like you're not doing this in order. You know what I mean? Like, you're not like sitting there going, I think I'm behind in life. Let me go scroll on social media. See, here's everybody that's ahead of me. It's just something that's happening subconsciously. You believe that about yourself because you have yet to rewire that belief. And so naturally, when you inevitably, naturally, whatever, scroll on social media, you only recognize those things. And you're not looking at those things going, yep, that person's ahead of me. You're just soaking that in subconsciously. You're watching the funny dog video and then you're laughing, and then you're watching someone do another funny video in a giant house doing their makeup and it looks perfect, and you think like, "Oh, okay, so like this person's got a lot of money, they've got a nice house, they look pretty, like what the fuck?" And you're not consciously saying those things. You're just internalizing them and adding them onto your list of reasons why you're not good enough. This is how so many of us get stuck in this shame spiral. It has nothing to do with your willpower, your capability, or your motivation. It has everything to do with the fact that you're subconsciously reinforcing this identity that doesn't serve you. So, if our brain is wired to do this, if our brain is wired this way, how are we ever supposed to become someone new? How are we ever supposed to make change and start implementing the things in our life that we want to implement if our brain is constantly scanning for flaws and proof that we are the negative things that we believe about ourselves? I came across this Reddit post that I thought was super interesting because the person went from being an underachiever to a very highly functioning person. And they didn't do it through setting goals and habit trackers and all of the things that the self help world wants to tell us that we have to do in order to finally like make it, in order to finally rewire our brains. They simply changed how they viewed themselves. And so they were able to show up in the world differently. They did this through a process that they called identity anchoring. And I thought it was so cool because what happens in our mind is we don't get to just pick who we want to be and become that person. And like that is logically what we are trying to do constantly. Like we think that, okay, I want to be a person that works out. So I'm going to go out into the world and I'm going to work out because that sounds like that makes sense. But that's not what works. That's not what our brain does. What our brain does is collects evidence of who we already are, and then we create our identity around that. I want to read you guys an excerpt from this person's Reddit post because I just think it's so good and it's so beautifully worded that I don't even want to try to botch it. So, this person said the key insight is that your subconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. Basic neuroscience. Your brain processes imagined scenarios using many of the same neural pathways as real experiences. The trick is starting ridiculously small. Your brain won't buy, actually, I'm a fitness god, when you can barely do 10 push ups, but it will accept I'm someone who works out after you do literally 5 minutes of exercise. And I think this concept is so cool because it's true. A lot of the time, we try to tell ourselves that we are this future thing that we want to become, but we don't have what's in us we don't have the action to back it up. Our brain is just like, okay, yeah, sure, good try. But actually, here's every example as to why you're a lazy piece of shit and not a fitness god. So for me, it brings me to yet another crossroads because it sounds exactly like the advice that we all always get to show up as the person that you want to become, which realistically is good advice. You know, it's solid advice to try to decide what actions that person would take and to start taking those actions so that you can actually become that person. But we're missing that's the middle, we're missing the beginning piece. And the beginning piece is changing the way that your brain thinks about yourself and rewiring those beliefs that you have to do small things that will get your brain to start to believe that you are those things so that you can take those actions. You won't take the action if your brain doesn't believe it about you. So if you think that you want to be a strong person and your ideal self is a fitness god using their terminology, then you won't just start going to the gym 6 days a week and lifting tons of weights. Maybe you have to start by doing 10 push ups, and you will be able to say after 5 minutes of exercise that you are someone that works out. Even if you're not in the gym, you're just going on walks, or maybe you're doing something on YouTube at home. You'll be able to start to recognize yourself as somebody that works out, which will then allow you to start taking the action that you have to take to feed that belief and give yourself the proof that that is true. If you are somebody that wants to be more seductive, let's say, you won't just start being sexy all of a sudden if you've spent your whole life being awkward. You have to believe that to be true about yourself through small action. You have to take tiny little actions, like maybe holding eye contact with somebody for longer than you typically do, longer than what's normally comfortable for you. And you'll start to realize that people respond to you well, and you can start to believe that you are actually seductive, that you're capable of doing that. And then you build on that small action. It's these tiny, unimpressive things that really make a difference. Like for me, it's recording a podcast even after I've been crying about my life all day, or it's drinking a bottle of water even though I've identified as a dehydrated person literally my entire life, doing these very small things that eventually will progress and add up over time. Self improvement has this idea that it needs to fix who you are, but being realistic with your self improvement doesn't try to fix you. It doesn't try to tell you that you're not good enough now and you need to do things in order to make yourself better. What it does is create the proof that proves that you are already the person that you want to be through small, consistent action. There's another self improvement myth that I do briefly want to touch on, and that's this misconception that if you are more intense with yourself, more harsh with yourself, that you will get motivated and do what you want. But research says that it's literally the opposite that motivates us. And if you think about the way that you would motivate a child to do what you want, it makes it make a lot more sense. If you say to a kid, like, hey, do what I say, maybe they'll obey you, but you'll create this like shame spiral for them. They'll do it out of fear. It's not because of them genuinely wanting to do something. But if you are warm and encouraging and kind with your words, you actually have a better chance at changing their behavior pattern permanently. And you are not any different. There's a self-compassion expert. Her name is Dr. Kristen Neff. She's found that people who speak to themselves with kindness are actually more likely to stay motivated and less likely to burn out. Why? Because shame-based motivation might get you moving, but it won't keep you moving. And it definitely won't help you feel safe enough to try again if you fall short. I think that part is so interesting, that it's not even just about the getting yourself moving. While that's a very big, important piece of it, that's 50% of it. The other 50% of it is when you fall short of what you said that you were going to do, that you set out to do something, you don't do it as you pictured it in your head, and now you're continuing with this pattern of being mean to yourself about it. You were mean to yourself to get yourself to do it, and now you're being mean to yourself because you didn't. And when we spell it out like that, you can see like how obviously that it wouldn't work. Like that doesn't make sense. And I think that it feels scary to not like to change that, to not be harsh with yourself because it almost feels like you're letting yourself off the hook by being nicer to yourself about things, but that's not it at all. It's just changing the voice that you're holding yourself accountable with. And if you are able to be kinder to yourself, you'll feel safer to make mistakes because you know that you won't think you're a piece of shit if you make the mistakes. So let's talk about the part that we have all been wanting this entire time. How do we actually rewire our identity? You don't do it by faking it. You don't do it by pretending that you're something that you're not now so that hopefully you one day become that. It's not fake it till you make it. I actually don't really love fake it till you make it. I appreciate the shit out of fake it till you make it. But the only reason fake it till you make it works is because you're showing up with the action that you want to make it with. It's just like a softer way to give yourself an excuse to say you're faking it. But like, if you're doing those things, you're not faking it. So you are basically doing that concept. It's not about faking it. It's about taking small action to show yourself that you are the person that you want to become so that you can actually believe that you are those things. But it has to be small and believable enough for your brain to accept it and hold on to it. So there's 5 steps. The first step is give yourself a core identity. For the sake of example, I'm going to say I am a person that lives a fulfilling life. The second one is creating 3 identity anchors. So for this example, we would say I have an engaging social life, I experience a variety of new things, I show up in the world. Obviously, yours might be different. These are what mine are. The third one is audit your input. What are you watching, reading, and consuming? What's influencing your beliefs about yourself and what's possible for your life? What are your barriers? You can ask yourself these questions. You can compile other questions like what people are making me feel like I'm not good enough? What stories have I told myself that made me feel this way? What has happened in my past that I might need to heal in order to start to rewire this belief about myself? Then we have changing your self talk. That's number 4. Start speaking to yourself like someone you trust, not someone that you're trying to fix. And I think that is one of my favorite lines about self compassion, that you are talking to yourself like somebody that is your best friend, somebody that you knows has your back, that you know has always had your best interest at heart. And that's always why we've been working so hard to try to become something new because we want what's best for us and we know what we're capable of. And if we could come at it from that perspective instead of saying like, oh, you suck, you're not good enough, and once you do this thing you'll finally be enough for me, you just sound like every negative person that's ever been in your life. Don't be that voice for you. Actually be a voice of somebody that fucking loves and trusts you. And then number 5 is track proof, not perfection. I love this one. Progress is great. You know, we're all about progress, but you can't have progress and change your identity without proof. Proof is what builds the identity. Proof says, I am already becoming this person. I'm not just thinking about becoming this person. And that, I think, is the mistake that so many of us will make, is that we think about becoming this person a lot, or at least I do. I spend so much time thinking about it that it makes me feel like I'm taking action. And I'm not. I'm just spending all of this time obsessing over it in my mind. But if we could actually start to collect proof, then we'll actually start to build this new identity for ourselves because our brains will have something it can hold on to. So many of us are trying to force our ways into a better life by willpower alone, but absolutely no amount of motivation is going to change who you are. You have to create a new belief about who you are, and over time, that will begin to shift your identity towards that thing. Your identity is not a fixed trait. It can always evolve, and it has always evolved. We see proof of that. It feels like your identity is fixed because, you know, we've had be yourself be pounded into our head so many times. But this isn't about being somebody that we're not. It's about being more of who we actually are, who we want to be, because we have these ideas in our head. And the only thing that has to change is our beliefs. And beliefs can change, you know, you can understand why you've had old beliefs and appreciate what those did for you and how they served you at the time, and know that they no longer serve you and you want to shift your belief to something that's more in alignment with the person that you are today. This doesn't happen through pressure. It happens through patience and through consistency and through repetition. And when we do this enough, eventually you will be able to become the person that you are always picturing in your mind. You don't need to become somebody new and shiny. You need to stop abandoning who you already are. So start small, start now, and do it because your brain is listening to you. We're not done yet. Don't go anywhere. We have our Wellish check, our question of the week. I'm so excited about this one. I tried to pick one that I felt was like relevant to what we were talking about today. So this person says, "Hi, Sarah. My friend is being so hard on herself, even though she's genuinely trying to change. How do I help someone see they're not broken just because they're still struggling?" I think this is a really good question because it's so hard to see from the outside how someone is doing and that they don't feel internally that way at all. Like it's so hard for them to see it, which I feel like is me. Like I'm your friend, okay? Like the people in my life are like, "Sarah, like I don't really understand why you're freaking out. You're fine. You've got it together." And I am very much like, "No, everything's horrible. I suck. Things suck. My life sucks. I'm failing." So like I very much relate to your friend. So I'm a good person to ask because I can say from that point of view what would really help me. And I think the number one thing that you can do is point out when she is doing good things. Like calling out and recognizing those things organically. Like when something comes up that she does really well, point that out and don't be like, "Hey, you know how you were saying you suck, but you did this, so just so you know, this is proof." While that's nice and like that's cool, it would be nice to hear those things not when you're in a spiral. It would be nice to hear those things on the regular, that you are being recognized for what you do, or just kind of maybe pulling, not even being recognized, because it's not about the external validation, but it's pulling yourself into that conscious awareness that you're doing good things, like that you're saying like, "Oh, huh, that was good that I did that," right? And when people that you love can pull you into that conscious awareness on an authentic level, like on a regular basis, I think that would really be helpful for her to see that she isn't all doom and gloom and struggle. She is actively making change and doing good for herself. Okay, that is it for this week's episode. Please make sure to rate and review the show. It really does genuinely make a difference. It helps out a lot. Leave me a cute little comment. I love to talk to you guys. Send in more questions for the show. I've been getting so many, so I really, really appreciate you guys doing that. It's so fun to be able to connect with you guys and talk to you guys. So absolutely keep that up. Also, make sure to subscribe to the show so you get more Wellish content on your feed. If you do want to send me a question or talk to me about literally anything else, you can tag me or DM me at Wellish Podcast. That's both on Instagram and on TikTok. And then my personal Instagram is at sarah.rittendale. I love you guys endlessly. Thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you guys next Monday. Bye. Have a good week.